Police are called to the scene of 38-year-old Kerry Woolley's murder. Suspect number one, her boyfriend.
What was the last time you saw her?
1 o'clock, I left hers this morning.
Here?
Yeah, we was having a few drinks.
The boyfriend, Ian Bennett, soon ends up in the back of a police car.
What I'm about to say to you is quite important. You're going to be under arrest for murder at this time, okay? You're going to murder. It's a suspicion at the moment, okay?
Bennett vehemently protests his innocence. What part will lip-reading Bennett's mother, caught on camera, play in the detective's pursuit of a killer?
The prosecution case was that Mum was lip-syncing to Ian Bennett, cam.
She didn't want to admit there was a problem. I suppose it crosses your mind, did he do it?
Detectives gather evidence until a picture of a suspect emerges. Which piece of the puzzle will prove murder? What will be a killer's mistake?
My name is Narita Barra KC. I'm a criminal barrister based in London. The morning of Sunday the 12th, Ian Bennett went over to Kerry's flat and went into her flat and then phoned the police and the ambulance.
Ian Bennett is the boyfriend of Kerry Woolley, a mother of two.
He made a 999 call, which was along these lines: I have walked into my girlfriend's flat. I don't understand what's happened. It's a terrible scene. She's clearly been hurt and injured, and I don't know what to do. What should I be doing? And he was having a panic attack, an anxiety attack on the phone.
Yeah, please, ambulance.
The police and the ambulance, when they arrived at the ground floor flat, found a very bloodied scene. Kerry Woolley was on the floor in a state of undress. She had substantial wounds all over her body. And the flat effectively looked as though somebody had come into it without permission.
As the police lock down the crime scene inside Kerry Woolley's flat, outside, body cameras capture the real-life drama which is unfolding.
I'm sorry, sir. When was the last time you saw her?
1 o'clock, I left hers this morning.
Here?
Yeah, we was having a few drinks. I left here at 1. My mum and dad had a big argument at home, so I went home last night to make sure everything was all right there.
Right.
And then I've been trying to ring them and text all day, no answers. So I just thought I'd knock on, and the doors wasn't open. I had to pull the handle.
Yeah.
And then I walked into that.
There were calls made by Ian Bennett to other family members to alert them that Kerry has been killed and to explain that he has come across the scene. So within a very short period of time, most of the family members are now aware of what's happened.
Ian Bennett displays all the emotions of a traumatised, bereft boyfriend.
You can see that he's trying to display the emotion that he thinks the partner or friend of someone who's just been murdered would show.
Investigators soon learn that Ian and Kerry haven't been together for very long.
Kerry actually only knows Bennett for a matter of weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, so their actual friendship and their connection doesn't have a great deal of time to progress. Bennett is really embedding himself into Kerry's life. He's positioning himself as this crutch for Kerry.
Police investigating Kerry's death begin delving into her backstory. They learn that before she met new boyfriend Ian Bennett, there's been turbulence in her life. Hers, though, is a supportive family.
Kerry was a couple of years younger than me. As children, we were very close. My mum always used to dress us the same. We were best friends right throughout life. We were always together. We used to go to the park together. We used to play with our neighbours. Everything we did together. I became a teenager first, obviously, and I did my own thing. But as we met our first boyfriends, the four of us were inseparable. Holidays, nights out.
As a teenager, Kerry begins building a career at a life insurance company.
I first met Kerry when she was a bright-eyed, bubbly 15-year-old. She came to work at the same organisation that I did as a support clerk. So she was starting at the bottom of the ladder. Kerry was very competent.
She was just this bubbly girl that everyone wanted to talk to. She was very popular as she got older.
Everybody knew Kerry for a smile. She was just a beautiful, beautiful young lady, inside and out.
Kerry turns heads wherever she goes.
She was very elegant, she was beautiful. She never went anywhere without her hair or makeup done.
I remember meeting Kerry and her sister Lisa very clearly. One Friday afternoon, these two beautiful businesswomen walked in, long blonde hair, and the pub just stopped and looked at them. There wasn't a man around who didn't look at Kerry or admire her from a distance. And if you ever got speaking to her, how bubbly she was.
Steve Mallon becomes ever closer to Kerry's sister, Lisa.
After some years, me and Lisa became best friends. Blossomed into something else, egged on by Kerry.
As love blooms for Lisa and Steve, Kerry also meets a man that she falls for. And soon, big news, she's expecting.
From the moment that she got pregnant, she blossomed. Yeah, she went from being the young Kerry that we knew to being very much a young lady. She just came into her own.
It's not long before Kerry has a second child. She appears set for life.
She had two beautiful children. She had a lovely home. She drove around in nice cars. She had everything. Her family meant everything to her. To everyone on the outside, she had the perfect life. She had everything.
In her job, too, Kerry excels.
She worked her way up through claims handling roles, became a support coordinator. And at that point in time, Kerry and I worked alongside each other. And then Kerry became a claims team manager. She worked on numerous different teams within the department, whether it was motor, real estate, construction engineering.
She got promoted quite quickly.
It is now on Kerry's timeline that life becomes less perfect. Detectives uncover the seeds of what makes her vulnerable to Ian Bennett.
On a Friday, quite often we would head for the pub, have a quick lunchtime drink. That was something that quite a lot of people in the office in the early days used to do.
Friends and family tell detectives about when Kerry's drinking becomes a serious problem.
We noticed that she was probably drinking a bit more than what she normally does.
All of a sudden, trips to the pub seemed to be becoming more of a frequent thing with Kerry again, and not just on a Friday. And I remember one day we'd gone to the pub. It was a lovely summer afternoon, just to have a quick drink. And bless her, she was rather thirsty, so her first drink had been downed a little quicker than perhaps I'd remembered them to be. And then she was going to have another, and it was like, you have to drive home to pick the children up. Do you think that's a wise thing to do?
Police see a lifestyle which leaves Kerry at risk. Those around her put themselves on high alert.
Her partner confided in us a bit more how he was struggling with Kerry. And then there was an instance where he said, well, I've had to take the car keys off her. And that was shocking.
Her relationship with her partner wasn't going perhaps as well as it had been. There were times when obviously she would come into work or we'd have conversations and things perhaps weren't as rosy as they had previously been. But then one day she just seemed to be losing a lot of weight. Her vibrancy was not what it had been.
Evidence of frailty emerges as Carrie's drinking ultimately contributes to a separation from the father of her 2 children.
When Kerry's long-term relationship with the father of her children breaks down, she loses custody of her children, and that's because of her escalating issue with alcohol abuse. And so it's deemed safer for the children to have predominant custody with their father, and Kerry is given visiting access rights.
It was late 2017, and she moved out of the family home into a nearby apartment, just round the corner, really.
Carrie's family rally around her to help. They sense her need for protection.
They move her into a flat nearby them so that they can keep an eye on her.
She wasn't alone in her problems. Everyone was there a lot of the time. All the family had lots of different ways of keeping in contact, making sure she was safe.
She missed her children without a doubt. She was able to see them, yeah, it was supervised. We didn't let the children see her on their own, but we did let her see them.
When living alone, detectives discover that Carrie becomes increasingly exposed.
She was very vulnerable, weak, didn't eat for days sometimes, pass out, would hallucinate, we'd have to take her to hospital. Ambulances called many times.
We knew she was putting herself in danger.
At work, Carrie Woolley's issues with alcohol become hard to hide.
On one of the days, Kerry had fallen asleep at her desk. Obviously because she'd had a drink. And again, she was sent home. It was hard. It was really hard to watch her. To know that you wanted to be there and to help her, but actually were unable.
In all aspects of her once successful life, investigators discover a downturn. She's made redundant.
All of these circumstances combined leave Kerry in a really vulnerable state because her life as she know it has entirely changed. She's worked in the same job for a long time, she's had the same relationship for a long time, and just over a short span of months, that's entirely turned on its head and she's feeling lost and she's feeling alone.
Absolutely no way I would have thought this would have happened to Kerry.
Around this time as well, the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic kicks in. And so on top of all of these issues that she's facing, suddenly the world's in this very unprecedented space. She becomes very isolated. She doesn't have access to her children, and everything escalates further out of control.
There was no focus for her. She got no reason to get up in the morning. She got no reason to be taking any care and pride.
Kerry's spiralling dependence on alcohol leaves her all but defenceless as she looks for company online. The pandemic means that friends and family are not around to see who's coming in and out of her life. Ian Bennett is not the only man to be considered by detectives as her killer.
She was speaking with friends, potentially speaking with strangers or people that she knew but didn't know, if that makes sense. She could have been talking to anybody.
She's lost her job, she's lost her family, she's lost a lot of the connections around her, and she's very lonely. And because of that, it means that she's maybe less likely to discriminate the people who are coming into her life. Maybe she's vetting them less because she's just looking for human connection. And that means that people who are out there and want to abuse people can take advantage of that situation. They take advantage of that vulnerability because they know that she's not in a position to defend herself.
When she was in the flat, it just seemed as if the word was out. And she was a very vulnerable person, and just idiots would just turn up, and she befriended a lot of idiots. People just taking advantage, and people were like asking, can I borrow money, can I do this? Kerry being what she's, oh yeah, just, don't give me back.
She did have money, So yeah, potentially they were trying to get something from her.
As Kerry seeks companionship, detectives uncover that it's the summer before she's killed when her choice of partner first puts her in danger.
Kerry enters into a new relationship, and
He wasn't a particularly pleasant person towards Kerry. There were times when I would see her or speak to her, and you could tell in her voice that it hadn't all been going well.
This one chap she was with, he was violent. There was a lot of police involvement because of that, and the family would intervene. We would try and get rid of him, but we couldn't.
this man turned out to be extremely abusive, extremely aggressive. He stole money from her, he beat her up, she lost a significant amount of weight.
It is this period of her life, May 2020, when detectives pinpoint the moment Kerry appears at most risk. It's a moment she reconnects with an old school friend through social media.
Kerry connected with Bennett online, and that's because A, he was a familiar face, they'd gone to high school together, despite not being that close, but B, also the fact that this was just another person for her to feel some warmth from. He was from the same area as her, he lived near her family, so he kind of felt like a safe bet.
Sort of thought, well, here we go again. No, who's this guy? But he did come across okay. He was in contact with Lisa a lot, a little bit of a pest, but it was also a way of Lisa keeping in contact with Kerry.
He did go to the same school as us. He drank in the same local pub that we drink in, but I'd never actually crossed paths with him. So he was 38 and she was the same age but a year above him at school. Kerry introduced him to me over the telephone and she seemed happy. He seemed nice, she seemed happy.
Obviously, she didn't have the children, she hadn't got work. A lot of her friends had sort of, I wouldn't say disappeared, but had distanced themselves from the situation. So yeah, she craved the company.
When Kerry meets Ian, it's not entirely clear the exact diameters of their relationship. Most accounts suggest that this was predominantly a friendship, a companionship, though there is some suggestion that it involved an element of sort of friends with benefits. But this was not someone that Kerry was looking to be in an exclusive relationship with by any means.
Murder Squad detectives build a picture of a man with few friends. In his 30s, he's still very close to mum and dad.
At this point, Ian Bennett is living with his parents. He doesn't have a huge social circle and is most often seen socialising with his father down at the pub.
He lived with his mother and father at home. It was quite peculiar. He had a very neat and tidy bedroom, which his mother clearly kept neat and tidy for him. I think there was an element of Ian never really ever growing up because he was always effectively a mummy's boy.
The mummy's boy seemed to detectives to need her approval for his new relationship with Kerry. Mum is seldom far away.
He used to invite her around to dinner and his mum used to invite her around to dinner. His mum used to pick her up from her flat and take her to their house so that she could have dinner with them. She told me they'd become quite fond of Kerry. She was definitely on, or seemed to be on, positive steps to recovery.
Whilst Kerry's not necessarily treating this as a serious relationship, it does seem that Ian Bennett is seeing it as such, because he's really getting involved in her life. He's in contact with her family, he's assuring them that he's looking after her. He's even positioning himself as this kind of saviour for her, saying that he's the best thing that's ever happened to her.
Lisa is unable to meet her sister's new companion because of the pandemic, but she tells detectives that Bennett knew all about Kerry's addiction issues.
He was absolutely aware of vulnerabilities because I told him about them, but he said he wanted to help her.
Bennett has his own issues, ones that his family characterised with an affectionate term used to lessen moments of anger.
All of his family members said that Ian Bennett suffered from something called Walter moments. And they described Walter moments as being something that he had suffered from being a very, very young child. And they'd learnt to manage these moments that he had. And the way they did that was to effectively appease him, follow instruction, and not allow him to get angry, and then you wouldn't have a reaction and a Walter moment.
Bennett originally presents himself to Kerry as a recovering alcoholic, and he offers support to help her too. And again, it kind of feeds into this idea that he's positioning himself in this saviour role.
I think he thought that he could help her.
He'd been a cocaine user in the past. All the experts agreed about this, that he suffered from a paranoid personality disorder, a borderline personality disorder, coupled with a depressive illness, and couple that with somebody who has an alcohol problem, and that is a toxic, lethal combination.
Because of his behaviour just a few weeks into their relationship, Ian Bennett has become police suspect number 1 in the murder of Kerry Woolley.
Weeks into the relationship, he became possessive. He didn't want anyone to go near her. He said if old boyfriends or anything had contacted her, then he would kill them. He thought he was the best thing that had ever happened to her.
He's becoming very possessive of her, even though they are not in an exclusive relationship, nor does Kerry have any intention to be.
Police learn of Ian Bennett's capacity for jealousy. Friends and family reveal the concerning events of Kerry and Ian's nights out.
The first thing that really brought my attention to his behaviour was on the Friday night.
Kerry Woolley and Ian Bennett went out to the local pub. They met up with a couple and they drank alcohol. I think Kerry Woolley had had about a bottle of wine by that stage and they shared it.
They go back to the couple's flat for more drinks. The evening takes a turn for the worse.
Ian had gone to get some more drinks from the local petrol station, and apparently while he was gone, Kerry had cheated on him. The reason he thought that was because she had taken her jumper off. She had a vest top on underneath, and he'd come back and she'd got this vest top on, and that was his reason for thinking she'd cheated on him.
He saw her just sitting there in a vest and started losing it. You're having an affair, you're cheating on me.
And unbeknownst to Kerry at this point, along with drinking, Bennett's also consuming quite a lot of cocaine.
She took her jumper off because it was summer, and she had a vest on underneath. She wasn't naked, she wasn't undressed. He just seemed to lose it.
Bennett's just becoming more and more paranoid. All Kerry's done is remove her jumper, and he takes that as a sign that she's having an affair with the woman that they're at the pub with. This is someone whose paranoia is escalating out of control. He's also disinhibited by the alcohol and drugs that he's taken that night, and all of this is spiralling into this paranoid crash.
He came across as very insecure at that point. Just insecure and jealous.
This paranoid mood that Bennett was putting himself into continues escalating, and when Kerry and Bennett get back to her home, he starts lashing out violently. He's again getting paranoid about this infidelity that he's perceiving. And during this argument, he picks up the TV remote, throws it at Kerry's TV, and damages it. So he's becoming increasingly physically violent during this argument, and it's all stemming from this paranoia about this perceived wrongdoing.
Bennett leaves Kerry's flat and on the way home contacts Lisa.
It started on text message, and then it turned into a phone call because it was very late. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. He was angry. He was very angry. He was walking home, and he basically said to me that what he felt like doing was throwing himself in front of a train. He had to walk past the train station to get home, and he felt like throwing himself in front of a train.
Kerry tells friends that the evening's incidents make her sister want to end the relationship.
She just didn't think that it was what she needed in her life.
Kerry's talking to her friends and is saying that she feels that Bennett's becoming quite controlling, that he wants more from this friendship than she does, and that actually she's going to call it off. She doesn't want to see him anymore, and instead she just wants to focus on her recovery. And not only that, but she's planning to tell him.
She was cutting back on her drinking. She was reconnecting with the children. And I think she'd actually finally accepted that having those types of people in her life, it wasn't the way forward. So actually, it was like, yes, Kerry, we've turned that corner. And it was just a shame that within hours of that conversation, it had all gone horribly, horribly wrong.
It was the following afternoon. They both seemed they'd sorted out what had happened.
So events unfolded with Saturday, 12th of July. There were messages between them to suggest that everything was okay again.
They spoke about the television and told me how he was going to replace the television. Yeah, they seemed absolutely fine. I think it was about 4:30 on the Saturday afternoon.
On Saturday, 11th of July, Kerry and Ian spend the evening together.
The last we see of Kerry Woolley is some photographs of her and Ian Bennett looking very happy together as a couple, and those she posted on her Facebook.
I just know that she was okay, and they asked me not to tell my parents what had happened the night before.
However, just 24 hours later, Ian Bennett is back on the phone to Lisa.
He contacted me the following day and asked if I'd spoken to Kerry. And I hadn't. And he went on to tell me how they'd had another row that night, and she was annoyed with him because he'd left her house at 1 o'clock in the morning. So this is 1 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and gone home, and she was annoyed with him for doing that. He sounded normal on that call. The following day I received a message from him at about 2:30 on the afternoon, asking if either me or my parents had spoken to Kerry that day. We hadn't. I think I then asked him if he'd spoken to her, and he hadn't either.
And the response of the family was effectively to say, well, don't panic too much. She may have just had a bit too much alcohol, and when she's feeling a bit better and she's come round, she may be in touch. So the alarm was not raised.
Next thing then was a message that I received about an hour later. And he told me that he'd gone into the flat, the door was unlocked. He'd walked in and it looked like Kerry had been attacked, and there was blood everywhere, and he thought she was dead.
Please, ambulance.
When we got to the apartment, the police and ambulances were already there. Until that point, I don't think we really believed what he was saying. But once we saw the blue tape and the police and the ambulances, we knew it was serious.
Never forget turning the corner into that road. The amount of emergency services it looked like there was a riot. And I'll never forget the policeman's face. He just kind of shook his head, and Lisa said, Is she dead? And the officer says there is somebody deceased in the apartment.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
And we could see Ian Bennett outside the front of the apartment.
Your mind starts racing with you. And I sort of don't recall Ian Bennett standing there, but he was still giving off outside the doors of the flat. And I felt sorry for him. Thought, what's that poor bugger walked into?
I suppose it crosses your mind, did he do it? But because of the relationship, and I call it a relationship, it was phone conversations, maybe I didn't want to believe it was him.
I left hers this morning.
Here.
Yeah, we was having a few drinks. I left her at 1. My mum and dad had a big argument at home, so I went home last night to her.
Ian Bennett denies being a killer. Has he made a mistake? Detectives trawl CCTV footage.
The CCTV captured Ian Bennett leaving Miss Woolley's house in the early hours of the morning with a carrier bag.
Police traced Bennett's movements back to his parents' house with the carrier bag. They soon hear a version of events from Bennett's mother explaining why his clothes worn that day were cleaned.
She was awoken by Ian in the early hours of the morning, and he asked to speak to her, and they were just chatting, and she gave him a Coke, and he spilt the Coke on his jacket, so she washed his jacket in the washing machine. Ian asked his mother whether or not he could go for a drive.
Linda Bennett will tell detectives that she recognised her son's behaviour.
She was concerned that he was about to have a Walter moment and wanted to keep him calm. And therefore, when he said, shall we go for a drive, she then agreed. And he gave directions of where he wanted to go. And she followed, and she stopped the car wherever he asked to stop the car. And he was then caught on his mother's dash cam, which showed him throwing an object into water. And then they drove a short distance, and he left the vehicle with a bag, and then came back to the vehicle without the bag.
Has a killer made a mistake? One caught on camera. Through his search history, detectives learn that Bennett has been angry with Kerry for days.
Bennett's clearly intent on revenge. He Googles how to get revenge on a woman. You know, he's really committed to the fact that he's going to get revenge, and he's actively trying to plan that out.
The dash cam, his search history, police suspicions about his behaviour at the murder scene. The evidence is adding up.
Bennett is really trying to feign a lot of emotion when the police are there. He stages a call to his mom to break the news of Kerry's death.
Yeah, police, ambulance. Gonna be all right now. No problem. Hold up.
What we actually can see is that not a lot of it is genuine, and the police pick up on that.
The next thing I really remember is he's put into the back of a police car and arrested for murder.
So you've got to listen to what I'm about to say to you, it's quite important. So the time is 4:40, you're going to be under arrest for murder at this time, okay? You're an active murder. It's a suspicion at the moment, okay, based on obviously what's happened to you.
I think they may have handcuffed him, walked him round, put him in the back of the car. Thoughts that were going through my head were, how on earth were we going to tell her children? How on earth were we going to tell two small children that their mum had been killed?
Ian Bennett's mother, who's arrived at the scene to support her son, is also arrested.
Where are you going? So at the moment we'll be going to custody. I don't know which custody, I'll let you know. Possibly going to be Coventry, hopefully. Coventry? Yeah.
Both Mum and Ian Bennett are brought into the custody suite together, and the prosecution case was that Mum was lip syncing to Ian Bennett, dash cam, dash cam. The officers then went off to look at the vehicle, and then they obtained the dash cam footage, which showed and captured Ian Bennett disposing of items from Kerry Woolley's flat. So, but for Mum saying that to Ian Bennett, that dash cam may never have been found.
The dash cam reveals that when Linda Bennett takes Ian for a drive in the early hours of the 12th of July, the purpose isn't, as she claims, to calm him down.
The first stop was by the canal, where Ian was captured on footage disposing of an object. It transpired to be that that was one of the knives, because when the canal was dredged up, that is what they found. They then stopped in a wooded area nearby.
Kerry's blood-stained wallet is later recovered in this woodland.
And the third stop was not really a stop, but it was a sort of pause in the area outside Kerry Woolley's flat. And obviously the prosecution case was that Ian wanted to go past to see whether or not anyone had discovered Kerry's body.
Prosecutors line up their evidence to prove a charge of murder and begin with the ferocity of the attack.
Bennett subjects Kerry to a prolonged, extreme level of violent attack. It's excessive. He uses 2 different knives. He also strangles her.
Something must have happened in that flat which triggered Ian Bennett that evening, and it seems to suggest that it was something that happened in that short period of time. But a combination of alcohol and a question mark over whether or not cocaine had been taken as well, combined with what was then accepted later on in the case by all of the experts, which is the personality disorders that Ian suffered from, was effectively a toxic cocktail which resulted in the killing of Kerry Woolley.
A loss of control might indicate a mental state, which may see a jury convict on a charge of manslaughter and not murder.
Ian Bennett's case was that he had no recollection of what happened in the flat, but he accepted that when one looked at an inference from all the circumstances, he may have been responsible for the killing. But the second limb of his defence was, if I was responsible for the killing, then at the time of the killing I was suffering from an abnormality of mental reasoning, so I didn't really know what I was doing, because for that short moment I lost all ability to reason and my mind.
Even though this level of violent attack might suggest an element of loss of control from Bennett, we know that that's not the case, because not only does he stop midway through the attack to get a second weapon, but also he creates an alibi for himself immediately afterwards.
Kerry Woolley had sustained 55 stab wounds. Substantial part of them, and I think over 30 were around the neck area, and the remaining were all over her body.
Bennett begins this conscious campaign to get away with murder.
But police are confident Bennett won't get away with it. They've gathered enough evidence to charge Linda Bennett too, and defence and prosecution begin the long task of preparing for trial.
Both mother and son were tried together because mother was tried with assisting an offender in committing the act of murder.
Refusing to admit guilt, the Bennetts subject Kerry's family to yet more trauma, forcing them to sit through a 16-day trial, listening to all of the graphic details just feet away from the Bennetts.
It was just the worst thing you can ever imagine having to go through. It's just unbelievable. I can't believe what he did, and I can't believe her, as his mother, covered up for him.
His actions of his mother. She got so involved to such an extent, and the ending was planned. She washed his clothes, she drove him around 3 different locations, she gave me alibi, and then they'd done a drive-by in the morning, the Sunday morning, to see if she'd been found.
I think there was an element of Ian never really ever growing up, because he was always effectively a mummy's boy, and that might be one of the reasons why he ended up in the situation where he ended up getting his mother to assist him, and his mother felt that she could not say no.
Ian Bennett's defence centres on his history of behavioural problems going back to childhood. His defence barrister, Narita Barra, calls expert witnesses to try and explain Bennett's amnesia.
We turn to the psychiatrists and the psychologists who are very experienced and have dealt with numerous cases of murder over the years.
The prosecution in the trial accept that Bennett suffers mental health issues, including paranoid personality disorder, but they claim that Bennett had brought that on himself by abusing drugs and alcohol.
The jury returned verdicts, and those verdicts were guilty on all counts for both defendants, Ian Bennett and Mrs. Bennett, and Ian received life imprisonment with a minimum tariff of 25 years.
Bennett's ultimate mistake was in carelessly creating a record of his movements, which led police to the murder weapon.
Life is life. But it's not, is it? It's not, and although he's there and we're told that he won't ever be coming out, he's still breathing. He still has contact with his family. Kerry's family don't have that. Kerry's friends don't have that. It all just seems very, very unfair.
I don't think I saw the breakdown till it was too late.
Camera evidence from Bennett's own mother and reading her lips when mouthing dash cam shows him to be a liar and places his mother in the frame for charges related to the killing.
And his mother received a custodial sentence of 3 years for assisting him.
I feel angry. I feel an element of guilt. Thinking, why didn't I do more? We remember the family holidays, family barbecues. Her family were everything to her. The early morning phone calls that at the time used to drive me mad, but if I could speak to her one more time at 7 o'clock in the morning while she was driving to work, I'd do that. We just remember the good times.
You just start to remember the old times and her laugh and things like that, and that's what you got to grab onto. Can't remember the ill Kerry or anything you saw in court. Just remember that bubbly, gorgeous girl who would turn heads in the pub.